So we go on to the final speech of the day. May I call upon Mr. Mahesh Bora to speak about ably turning a dream into reality, the Rhino story. Mr. Mahesh Bora, Miss. Mr. Mahesh Bora has started a very noble missionary enterprise where he's doing something with Dung, and he's going to speak about that, the Rhino story.
I am from Assam. My name is, as you said, my MC Bora. And I was a mining engineer, basically. That was my profession. I retired in 2004. Unlike you, all of you, who are very young and energetic and have vision about doing something noble for the society, I worked in a public sector company. But things were always troubling me. Like as a mining engineer, the coal comes from trees. And that's not a renewable energy. That's something is going to be exhausted. So I was always thinking about trees, about forest and all that. And then I also happened to marry into a forest officer's family. My father-in-law was the chief conservator of forest. And I have grown up in a situation where the rhino was next door. In my village, across the river, used to be a rhino. So I was fond of all this. And then when I retired from my service, I always thought, is there anything that as an individual I can do about it, right? So that was a bad time for the elephants, for the rhinos, and for the forest in Assam. Rhinos were being killed by poachers for their horn, because each horn fetches 40 lakh rupees, which is more valuable than gold. The gold sells for 30 lakh a kg. One horn, 1 kg of the rhino horn is 40 lakh. So it sells in the international market. And all that money goes into arms smuggling and drug trafficking. That's what happens. So these are disturbing thoughts I had. Of course, as all of you know, we have certain duties to our nation, to our society. The Constitution 48, Article 48, says the state shall protect the environment and the wildlife and forest. But for the citizens, in Article 52 says, it shall be the duty of the citizens. Article 48 says the state shall endeavor. It says that the state will endeavor, but it entrusts greater responsibility on the citizens. This shall be the duty of the citizens to protect the natural environment and the wildlife and the forest. So these are things that we knew, but what could I do as an individual? So it struck me one day, I read in a magazine, that one thing, someone is making paper from elephant dung. It struck me, it's a wonderful idea. I knew that if you make paper, normally you make paper from trees. So you cut trees or bamboo plantation or whatever it is. And if you can make handmade paper, you replace man-made paper. So theoretically, you save the forest. But what was more important for me, I thought if we could use the elephant dung and rhino dung, what could possibly happen is the villages, the habitats of the rhinos and elephants, there are lots of villages around. So if the people can be engaged in that kind of a thing, then they will have a sense of ownership. They will think, okay, this is like you have a pond in the house, you won't allow others to come and kill the fish. So they'll never allow the poachers to kill the animals. So this was working in my mind. And then we finally decided, and my daughter Nisha also has grown up with us. Like the same kind of atmosphere where we love nature and we have always been thinking. And then we decided to go for it. We had to read a little bit. I didn't know anything about handmade paper, but we read. And then one day I picked up some dung from the zoo and put it on the screen, and I found it was a beautiful paper. So I understood, yes, we can do it. Why I'm saying all this is that when we think of doing something, it's not something that you keep thinking or just leave it at that. Or you keep criticizing people for not doing what they ought to do. Like there's a lot of, the public in Assam is very vociferous against the government, its inability to do anything, right? They take out a lot of processions on the way. They burn the effigies of the ministers, saying that they're not being able to do anything. I always think that why not think what I can do? Can we do anything positive instead of scolding people, instead of, burning people's effigies? Is there anything that we could do? So Nisha and I decided that we'll do something. Finally, we took a loan and started this. Now, why do we do this? Another beautiful thing, we have a lot of NGOs are here, they're doing great work. Even businessmen are doing a lot of good things for society. But my thought was that if an NGO can do a very good work, no doubt, but it is self-sustaining. NGO needs funds, someone works on a project for some time. How to keep it sustained for very long? I thought, why not, as an individual, I start a small business where I can engage those people and they can protect the forest. And they get something from it, and if they get some kind of livelihood, they will protect the forest and the animals will survive. They'll get more dung. It's kind of cyclic, it will sustain by itself. You don't need any outward injection of fund thereafter. So that's how I have started. Is that the whistle ring? Okay, right. So, and eventually, what we could do is, we could have more of this. I set up with Nisha, we have set up with great difficulty one small firm. Like Nisha says, we need to make profits also. And for that end, also, what we have done now, we make not only paper, we also train the rural boys and girls. So they have learned how to make beautiful things. They earn their livelihood. And also in the villages, there are a lot of people who are working as supporting us, like they make the certain things that we need, say the silk cocoon, the villagers make. So about 50, 60 villages are there. So we use that. So not only that, we're directly employing people. So I think that yes, we're doing a good job, maybe something like the NGOs are doing. That's what we feel. Or maybe, although as we look to be a businessman, but that's what I'm saying, that even as a businessman, you can do a lot of things which actually helps the society. And that could be a business concept. Doing some kind of business with the idea of development and economic development, and at the same time some social goals you have. So that's the message, and Rhino has for all of you, gentlemen and ladies. And that's about all I can say. That this is how we turned our dream into a business.
Thank you, Mr. Bora. I didn't have to blow the whistle on you because that was very energetic, great work. Very few NGOs are doing great work. Mm-hmm. I can promise you that. Yeah. By far the few. Yeah. Some of them would be here because we don't get the other side. Okay. The other side is too many. 98%. You heard it before, mm-hmm. right? So we surely need more initiatives like El Reno.
Thank you.
And it's a great story to be told. Imagine the innovation in dung. Right? Elephant dung, rhino dung. And there's a lot of power in dung. There's power actually being created in several states using dung. Yeah. Dung power. Yeah. Right? So it depends on how you create and convert and transform that simple idea into great action. Ordinary people can make an extraordinary difference in this world. Right? You don't need government, you need people like Mr. Mahesh Bora. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you.
Any questions for Mr. Mahesh Bora?
What is the number of people doing work for you to promote this business? Total number of people.
The people who supply materials to us, like the silk cocoon, which I use. I make silk paper. Yeah. I also make bamboo inlay paper. All the bamboo is supplied by people around. And the silk is supplied, they grow silk for this purpose only.
Can you give a number of people who are benefiting from this scheme of yours?
I'm sorry?
Number of people who are benefiting from this project of yours.
About 200 people by now, because the 5 villages, about 40 people each village at least are working on this great thing.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, sir. Any other questions for Mr. Mahesh Bora? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to add a little bit about this project.
All right.
In the sense that, when rhinos are being poached, generally, we say that the government is not doing anything. but without community involvement in trying to save the animals, it is not possible.
Absolutely.
So the whole idea behind this was that maybe if the communities living in the rhino habitats, if they could use the dung and earn the livelihood, if we could build clusters around the rhino habitats, where these clusters where these people could use the dung and get a livelihood, then they would, because the thing is, we earn a lot of revenue from Kaziranga. Assam's tourism is mostly dependent on Kaziranga and their one-horned rhino. And all this money is going to the government and the rich people who own the resorts.
Yeah,
and the community people are just watching them getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They don't get, nothing is flowing down to the community from this tourism. So as a result, when the poachers come and offer them money, they are ready to help to kill these rhinos.
Right.
So if the whole idea was that if we could help them to build clusters where they feel that this could give them a livelihood. So many rhinos in our area, these are our property, and we earn our livelihood from these rhinos. Maybe they have a feeling of ownership.
Very nice.
That was a great feeling we had. But I think my husband has not been able to still get along with the clusters that need some money. And we hope someday someone will have their eyes open and come forward to help him to build those clusters around the vicinity.
Thank you, ma'am, and inshallah that shall happen soon. I'm sure that will happen.
Sorry, can I just, there are just statistics. The Indian rhino doesn't have too much research around it. So if you were to Google the rhino on the internet, almost all the data you'll find is about the African rhino. There isn't even a single website that is singularly dedicated to the Indian one-horned rhino. That's how little work has gone into this species. Because, so worldwide, there's about 3,000 greater Indian one-horned rhinos that exist in the wild as of now. Out of these 3,000, more than 2,400 live in the forests of Assam alone. Out of these, last year we saw the deaths of about 45 of them. It was the highest in about 15 years. I don't know if you're aware, this year one of the black rhino species was declared extinct. Another one is heading very fast towards extinction. Over the past 2 years, apparently there's been a huge spurt in demand for the rhino horn. Some have linked it to a person in Vietnam, an ex-minister, who apparently was diagnosed with end-stage cancer. And then he had this miraculous recovery, and he came back and he said it happened because he had rhino horn powder. And apparently, so today most of the business is going into Vietnam. The point is that a lot of the research in Africa, at least, it hasn't been done in India, has found a direct correlation between poverty and poaching. Because if people are poor, then they're just that vulnerable to poachers. It's just a source of livelihood. Like a lot of terrorism is, for young people, it's a source of money. Simply, it's economics. So what we are saying is we'll give you other livelihoods. And so we need to be able, and I think it's working actually. So whether or not we actually have the clusters that we're employing people, it'll take a couple of years before we can actually do like a baseline and demonstrate impact on conservation. But we are confident that it's working because all the people that are working with us come from these villages. And besides the advocacy message, besides saying, the rhinos are good for you, they're good for the environment, it's just simply, listen, you get money, right? So you don't need to work with somebody else for the money. Which is why we believe very, very firmly that actually to do good, you also have to make money, because otherwise, you have to feed people. It has to be sustainable.
Thank you, ma'am. Brilliant work being done. The El Reno story is really an empowering story, and I'm glad that we are going to be having you as a part of our Karmaveer family. So with that, sir, we conclude. Mehul ji will come and give you your certificate for your brilliant rock star speech.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mehul ji, Mahesh ji. Thank you.
Photograph.
A big hand for them, ladies and gentlemen.
Jerry, just one last bit for Mr. Bora.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think I've been struggling since afternoon to sort of say this, because there's a lot of social work happening over here. But I think there's this little thing about not money, where I think economics makes huge sense in pushing all these projects forward. So we don't want to go to the bad money, but I really do agree with what Mr. Bora was saying, or turning the whole thing into a business concept.
Absolutely.
Because I have sort of changed the whole thing in creating a business around it,
That's
so I
the
can make
sustainability
money
here.
and
Yeah.
then put the money back into here. Otherwise, I can't sustain it.
That's right.
And that's something that I feel that a lot of people over here will need to sort of embrace more
You'll have
openly.
to build in the sustainability.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And the economics needs to be taken care of.
I like sustainability better as a word rather than profit.
No, profit is out of question here.
Yes.
The purpose remains social. The motive remains, the intent remains the same.
Very correct.
However, how are we executing that, it becomes very important. Because as a woman, I found it very difficult to raise money. Every time I would be hit or somebody would come and, do something else, and I would come back and I wasn't the nice person. So I just thought that I have to make my own money.
Very
So I just had to, I so truly agree with you that if we can turn it into a business concept
Yeah.
and
You ought
turn
to.
it around also for money to sustain that project and to sustain all the people who run that project, we can make a bigger difference.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Abba.
That's right.
And with that, folks, we shall conclude our first day. We start at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you for being such a great delegation, a very patient delegation. Please be here at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Punctuality is one of the virtues we look for in our delegation and our fellowships. Yeah, okay. And I want to thank everybody who's helping to make this happen. Our folks from the video crew from iMac and our Arjun Bhagat who's helping us and supporting us with our video shoot. And everybody, the volunteers, Mehul, you have Rafushan, you have Rex, and of course all the people who put it together. You have Meenu Chopra, who's been leading from the front. You have Hunar Brar, you have Colonel Sanjeev Datta, you have Sayantan Sinha, and every one of you. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. We shall see you tomorrow. 9 o'clock sharp. Thank you.